Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breathe Motivation. My name is Anthony Hester. I'm the host for this show. So glad to join you guys this week. I'm back. I had a really bad sinus infection that totally affected my voice, which just makes it a little hard to record this podcast when it's squeaking in and out. After the last episode I recorded, I started to get that kind of itchy throat. Like as I was doing the episode, I kind of had to pause and restart and do it all over again because my voice was, my throat was scratchy, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just allergies. And sure enough, it's a sinus infection, and just you wouldn't have wanted to hear my voice. I probably would have been very pitchy and all that stuff. Is very hard to record the episode. So apologize for that. Now I know to have some backups, right? So glad to join you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm grateful that you guys are tuning in. I thank you guys so much for the feedback, the shout outs, all that good stuff on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. I love hearing your guys' stories and how this show has inspired you guys along your journeys. And it really is a great honor to get those and, see that you guys are getting the motivation and inspiration from this show. I'm eternally grateful. So thank you guys so much for giving me feedback on that. So let's get started this week. I wanted to kind of talk about, it's funny because you go through these loops, right? And yesterday I was like, you kind of go through these things, like these thought processes, right? We always kind of talk about your mindset, and your mindset is the most important thing for you to find success. And I go through this too daily and monthly, weekly, all this stuff, right? You've got to be able to break bad habits. And as I start to kind of go through these things on a day-to-day basis, yesterday I was kind of feeling a little down, and I was like, man, what's going on? Like I was kind of feeling sad. I was like, I'm not where I want to be. And then I started realizing, oh, here you go. You're in a negativity loop, right? You start thinking of all the negative things that are going on, or maybe you're not being as successful. So you start beating yourself up. And I think it's important for us to really see past those limits and those limits that you set with yourself, because, as I was going through my talk track, in my mind, I started a new position. It's a lot of learning, just a lot of different things. And I'm so hard on myself because I expect to learn everything right away and be doing things, just running, right? And as they say, you've got to learn to crawl before you can walk and walk before you run. And I'm always so used to like just getting up and running and doing my thing, right? And like most people, I think want to be successful right away. And I've learned in the last couple of years, I've got to be a little bit more patient with myself and be patient with those thoughts that I have, because at the end of the day, your thought process and your mindset, that mindset has been there for years. So if you have a negative mindset, or you're so hard on yourself and you beat yourself up so often, you've got to be able to be patient with yourself and say, hey, you know what? It took me, 10 years to, that had this negative mindset or this negative loop. And, that's really where you've got to go. And it was interesting, as I was sitting there, I was like, man, today I was just had a reminder of that. Like, you just have to just be patient with yourself and, not have these expectations. That's one of those biggest things in the world, is expectations of yourself or other people. And, just in general, expectations can create a lot of negativity, I think, because of all of the things that go on. If you naturally beat yourself up all the time over, hey man, you're smarter than this, right? Instead of saying, hey man, you're smart, or I'm smart, I always say, hey, you're smarter than this, right? So I start to beat myself up. Or, hey man, you should be able to get this. Like you've studied this for a week. Why are you having such a hard time? I don't, a lot of people have those conversations in their mind, and you guys are so hard on yourself. And I'm so hard on myself. And that's one of those things, like I think that we need to like just love ourselves. And at the end of the day, I think we all can be our own worst enemy. And it's really frustrating to see that amongst yourself first, right? Because one, it's a rude awakening when you have to see that within yourself and say, man, I'm just, I'm really hard on myself. And, it's rough, right? You treat yourself so bad sometimes. People treat yourself, most people treat themselves so bad, so terribly, and you would never accept that from anybody else, but you allow that from yourself. And it's really frustrating. And I hate seeing that within myself, and I hate seeing that within other people, because that's how you end up getting stuck. You get stuck in this negativity loop. And guess what? That negativity loop is nothing but a big distraction. It's going to distract you from all the great things that you have to offer and you want to bring to this world. And that's the frustrating part about it. And that's where most people get frustrated is, why am I always stuck in this same position? And the reason why we get stuck in this position is because of this negativity loop. We're constantly telling ourselves all the things that we can't do instead of all the great things that we can do right. So that's what we've got to look at. There was a book that I read that, it was amazing. It was, that was the title of the book. All the things you can do right? I don't think that was the full title, but that's what the premise was. What are the things that I'm doing right instead of what are the things I'm doing wrong? It's so frustrating. I know. I've been there. I deal with it daily. And that's what a lot of people ask me about. Like, how do you push through that negativity loop? And I think first and foremost, you've got to be able to be aware, right? Awareness is the biggest key for you to move past where you're at. And it's hard because sometimes you've got to really, there's a difference between being hard on yourself and just being aware of the things that are going on. But how you talk to yourself and talk your way through these things is what's going to be the difference of you being stuck in the negativity loop or you moving past that. And that's the biggest thing that I want to bring across on this episode today is how you talk to yourself is how you're going to either be successful or you're going to stay stuck. Because when you start to be very negative towards yourself, guess what? You're distracting yourself from all of the other great things. You start to look at, really just imagine, you're stuck in a forest, you're lost, right? And a lot of the times when you're in this forest, the first thing you're going to get is this fear. You're surrounded by these trees. You have no clue where you're at. And you're like, just, it's getting dark. You're starting to freak out. You're like, okay, what can I do? What am I going to do? Right. So you start thinking of all these negative things that could happen. Hey, I could get attacked by a bear. I could, run out of food. I can run out of water. I'm going to dehydrate. I'm going to die. Right. That's the worst case scenario. And what's crazy is a lot of the times, guess what? There's a trail right underneath your feet. And if you just follow that trail and talk well to yourself and say, hey, I'm going to make my way out of here. I remember where I made these turns. So instead of distracting yourself and saying all these things that could happen that are terrible, start looking for that trail that's right in front of your face, because a lot of the times you've been through these negativity loops. And what have you done? You've always found your way out of it. And that's the way you've got to look at life. You've got to be able to know that, hey, I recognize that I'm going through this negativity loop. I know that I'm being very hard on myself. Hey, Anthony, it's okay, right? It's okay. Everything is going to be good. What's the worst thing that could happen? Or what are the great things that can happen out of this, right? I get to learn. So the quicker that you're aware moving forward, the quicker you can get out of the negativity loop, right? You've got to hold yourself accountable to the things that you're telling yourself. Because a lot of people will tell you, you will tell yourself, man, I'm stupid. Man, I can't win. I'm never going to get ahead in life, right? I'm not successful because I don't have enough money, right? I'm broke, right? You've got to be aware of all the things that you're saying to yourself and really start to switch those things. And I'm not saying that's the end all be all. Like I said, a lot of people will take that and say, oh, well, you can't be positive all the time. And yeah, that's true. You can't be positive all the time, but the quicker that you realize that you're being negative, the better that you can be, right? You've got to remember to stay focused on the things that are going to help you versus hurt you. Because as you start to get lost in that forest and you start to hear all of those negative things that you're saying to yourself, you start to distract yourself from finding that solution. So hold yourself accountable. Start to see those thought patterns, right? Because sometimes those thought patterns will take me right into being very sad or very overwhelmed, right? When I started this new job, new position, I was, obviously you're always pumped up when you start a new position. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go kick butt. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And, it's great to be excited. And it's great to know, hey, I'm going to kill it, right? I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do the best thing I can do. But you got to be realistic with the expectations of yourself, right? Those expectations that you have are going to either hold you back or they're going to move you forward. But you've got to be aware, very aware of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis that is going to help you. Either you're helping yourself or you're hurting yourself. It's the same thing with the people around you. There are going to be people that want you to succeed and there are going to be people that want you to fail, right? That's just nature. That's how it works. But you've got to be very aware. You've got to be self-aware of yourself. You got to be aware of all the people around you, right? The people around you can either help you or hurt you as well. But at the end of the day, if you are the person that's holding yourself back, and that's most of everyone, everybody that has those negativity loops, you're holding yourself back because you're starting to look at all the negative patterns. You're starting to create all these things that don't matter at the end of the day. And you're starting to create this madness around you. You've got to be able to say, hey, I got this, right? Control your controllables. Control the things that you are in control of. You can't control anybody else. You can't control others' thoughts of you. The only thing that you can control is within yourself. Control your own thoughts. Control your own way, right? That's the only way that you're going to be moving ahead in life, because you're easily going to distract yourself by looking at those negative loops. Stop setting those limits on yourself. Stop overthinking, right? Analysis by paralysis. I'm sure you guys have all heard that. The more you start to think instead of move, the more that you start to get caught up in all the negative things, right? Naturally, I think we all gravitate towards that negative thought. And that's where we've got to retrain our brains to say, hey, I've got this. It's kind of like juggling, right? You're juggling one ball at a time, but a lot of the times those balls are going to start turning negative, and then they're going to come overwhelming, and then you're not juggling anymore, right? So you've got to be able to be aware of the overthinking process. Stop overthinking things. Start focusing on one thing at a time, right? Naturally, everybody wants to multitask. In this world that we're in, people are going to multitask, and, you got to be here. I got a million emails to function. I got to go visit this place, right? I got to go talk to this customer. I got to do all these things. What I've started to do is just write these things down, because if I start to focus on the priorities, that's what happens. I start to focus on priorities, and guess what? I don't feel as overwhelmed. I don't feel like I have to, be going crazy, right? I don't have to feel like that. I don't have to feel that feeling, right? When I start to feel overwhelmed, that's when I start questioning myself. And then that's where that pattern starts, that negative loop starts. I've got to be able to prioritize. And I keep talking about prioritizing. In next episode, I swear I'm going to talk about how to prioritize things, because these last 3 episodes, I think I've mentioned prioritizing, and that's what we need to talk about, right? Because that's going to help you get your way out of this negativity loop, help you get, out of being stuck, because guess what? You can move forward. Stop digging so hard. Stop working so hard on this negativity, because at the end of the day, you can move forward and feel so much better. And I know I go through this on a day-to-day basis myself, right? I go through these same things, and that's why I talk about these things on this podcast. I want to be personal. I want to be real with you guys. I want to be genuine with you, because not everything is rainbows and butterflies, but I promise you things can get better, all based on how you look at things within your mind. Your mindset is key to your success. And when you find great people around you that want to help you move forward, those great things will continue to happen. When you start wanting all these great things and you start to focus on the positivity, guess what? Positive things start to just magic. I feel like it's magic. It's not magic. These things start to kind of pile up, and they start working for you. Stop working so hard against yourself. If there's anything out of this podcast that you get from this episode, stop working against yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're the one holding yourself back, right? Stop focusing on the negativity. When you start to see that loop going, just stop. Stop and breathe for a second, right? Breathe motivation. That's why I call it this, is just to take a breath. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and just relax, right? Just relax, because things are going to get better. Nothing's going to get better by you freaking out and worrying about it, right? What's the best thing that can happen? There's a lot of great things that can happen in your world, and with your family, your friends. Great things can happen. Just relax, just breathe, just stop for a minute, and just relax. Don't put anything in your mind. Just live in the moment for a minute, right? And you'll start to feel a lot better. So just get out of your own way, right? Get out of your own way and do the best things you can do for yourself. And that's just to take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. Aren't you already feeling better? I am. So let me leave you with this quote. Overthinking ruins you, ruins the situation, twists things around, makes you worry, and just makes everything worse than it actually is. So stop overthinking. Start looking at all these great things around you, and great things will happen. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate. Like my page on Facebook, Breathe Motivation. You can reach me out on email. Instead of Anthony Hester at Breathe Motivation, it's just Anthony at breathemotivation.com. And as always, remember to breathe motivation and exhale success, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.